All right, so I'm a big fan of tapping into your learning community. And a learning community is basically just a place where people who have common interests are sharing information back and forth. That could be software, it could be faith, ideology, it could be hobbies, it doesn't matter. I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of an Articulate user, but it really applies to anybody in any type of learning community. So one of the challenges with learning communities and social media today, and it's something I hear from other people, is that there's just so much information. So for example, if you're an Articulate user, there's the Rapid e-learning blog. Then you've got the Articulate's word of mouth blog that's got some community news and information. And then there's the Articulate Facebook site. So you can go there and there's an aggregated data. So there's all sorts of news and Twitter updates and events and all this stuff that you can see on the site. So if you want to follow that, you've got Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, you're going to have all of that information just coming to you via Twitter. So for example, I've got 1,000 people that I'm following. If 1,000 people each only sent one post in Twitter a day, that's 1,000 pieces of information. You couldn't even keep up with that. And then, screencasts, for example, if you're doing following the Articulate tutorials in Screenr, there's all these screencasts. So how do you keep on top of the fact that I've done 79 screencasts? That's just a lot of information. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to manage that flow of information, because it's really not about tuning out. It's more about filtering and managing the data that's available to you. So one way you can do that is using RSS feeds. So for example, I use a feed reader. I happen to be using Feedly, so let's click on that. And you can use any feed reader. And Feedly allows you to track your subscriptions. So for example, instead of going to a blog site every week or every day and seeing if it was updated, you subscribe to that and then you just come to one site, like in this case Feedly, and then I can see what updates have happened based on the information I'm tracking. So I can now track my blogs or whatever. So you can see the Rapid e-learning blog's got a feed on there. The community blog has a feed. Let's say I want to track the screeners. I'll show you how that works. So I just go ahead and click on the feed here, and then I can choose, something didn't happen right. So let's click up here. So I can choose where I want to subscribe to, and each blog is each feed reader or feed settings a little different, but I can choose from different readers. I'm going to choose Feedly. I can subscribe. So and I'm subscribing to the tutorial. So I'm going to just let's just do this. We'll do Screenr videos. Oops. And I'll just take that out. And I'm going to add it to my Articulate updates and hit subscribe. And so now that's being pulled into my feed reader. So if I refresh this, if I go to Articulate updates, now I can see the Screenr videos show up. And now I can quickly scan what's new on there. And when I'm done, when I've seen something, I'm done with it, I can just mark it as read and then it disappears. So once I read all of these things, I don't have to see them right there in front of me. So using a feed reader is one way. Another way is if you go to a place like, say, Facebook, and this is already aggregating a lot of that data. So for example, you've got some information that's being generated by Articulate, and that's coming from the blogs and Twitter and all that. So if you're a Facebook person, you can just become a fan of the Articulate site and then follow the resources that way. And so a lot of that data is already aggregated for you. If you're on Twitter, then the thing is to filter. So we've got using a feed reader, we've got go to a place that's already aggregating that, or use a filter. So let's do a search for e-learning. Now the key with Twitter, I think, is you don't need to follow everybody and everything they say. What you need to do is follow concepts or terms, keywords that you like. So in this case we do e-learning, and then if you scroll down here you can see that I can subscribe to that as well. Or you can do something like, let me see here, I've used Hootsuite, and so I've got a Rapid e-learning column or group, and then I can follow specific things. So here I'm following PowerPoint people, here I'm following keywords, e-learning, different spellings of it, and so now I can just track the information that I'm interested in following rather than the information that is just coming at me. So those are the three strategies. Use feed readers, subscribe, filter information, or use some sort of aggregating service.